How's it going, everybody? I wanted to talk to you about my mushroom fruiting tent behind me. In the last video, I basically just found some extra PVC pipes and some plastic sheeting, made this little fruiting chamber, and in this video, I wanted to talk about the environmental controls I plugged into it to keep the environment pinned for fruiting conditions. In case you didn't know, let's just go over some general ideal fruiting conditions for most mushrooms. Depending on what range of the world they're from, they might be a little bit different, but for the most part, they're going to be just fine with these conditions, which is 55 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 13 to 24 C. A little bit higher, the fruiting is going to happen faster, possibly more risk of contam. A little bit lower, the fruiting is going to happen slower. Humidity is super important during the fruiting stage as well. Usually in the wild, you see mushrooms coming up right after a rain, which makes sense. So we want to maintain 90 to 95% humidity, and it's important that you keep these things very consistent. You don't want the pins drying out or something going wrong. It just kind of ruins your whole flush. You're also going to want to do something to make sure that there's light, which we don't actually have to worry about because we're sitting right next to this window, and the plastic sheathing I chose is see-through, so plenty of light gets let in. But when you have natural light hitting the gills of the mushrooms, they actually start to produce more vitamin D. They become a healthier mushroom for you to consume, so it's definitely something to consider. If you don't have natural light, you can just cut the mushrooms and expose the gills to sunlight. It's a crazily short period of time. You should look it up. And then the next thing is ventilation. If it doesn't have enough oxygen, it starts to get fuzzy feet and the mushrooms get really spindly and long. It's not really ideal, so it's important to have fresh air exchange. That kind of tells the mushroom that it's out into the open and it can start dropping its spores. Growth of the mushroom is just a lot more natural with fresh air exchange. Let's start with this Reptile Fogger. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it for the price. It's got a few problems though, so I'll address those. This thing is a workhorse. It can run 20 to 40 hours continuously with its 4-liter water capacity. It's got an automatic water shutoff, so when the water level gets low, it's not going to burn out your ultrasonic disc. It's got a pretty spacious design, so maintenance is really easy. They also included some soft brushes and sponges, so you can clean it without scratching it. I find that just using a microfiber towel works just as well. I clean mine at least once a week, but if you keep up with it, it's not that bad. You might find yourself doing it a little more often. Size-wise, it's pretty compact, 7 by 7 by 10.2 inches tall. The control dial has really simple operation, which is perfect for use with humidity controllers or continual use. Now let's talk about its cons. There's a tendency to leak, and the other issue is I find this thing be a little bit difficult to sanitize, but I'm really glad that they included it because it gets set up super fast and the little suction cups are really nice. So my first tip to avoiding leaks is making sure that the lower reservoir is filled up properly before you start adding water to the top. The thing only leaks when the water level is equalizing and something's getting filled. So what I do is I double check and make sure that this lower reservoir is filled up a little bit more than what they recommend. And what that does is it just makes sure that this shutoff float is triggering and it's not allowing water in through the reservoir. So that way when you go to fill it, it's not going to be leaking and causing any problems. The reason why it leaks, it kind of creates a bell siphon with this part of the plastic housing and it sucks water in through there, which sounds terrible, but if you keep an eye while you're filling, you can actually see the water level inside of it rising. If it is going to start leaking, you can actually see it start, and you can stop it from making it create a big old mess. I find that if the water level is like between, 2 inches to like here, when you're adding, it's not gonna leak. It really only starts to be a problem once the water level starts getting lower. So, just double check that lower reservoir before adding water. The next thing that I did was use this vinyl braided hose. Basically, that's just a lot easier to sanitize because it doesn't have any nooks and crannies. And this arch shape kind of helps funnel more of the water that condenses into the inside of the tube back into the humidifier. The other thing that I've done is add a drip tray. I have mine on a little plastic platform in the event that if it does leak, the little air vents underneath the humidifier aren't going to be blocked off by the water and everything can stay dry and functioning properly. Next is going to be this Inkbird Humidity Controller. This is the owner's manual. It comes with a lot of information as far as the controls, which seem a little bit daunting, but once you get into it, they're pretty easy to understand. We've got work 1 and work 2. Work 1 is what is controlling your humidifier, tells it when to come on and off, and work 2 is going to be connected to your dehumidifier. And it has these little lights that tell you which one is functioning at any specific time, tells you the target humidity, and the current humidity. The way that it's able to tell what the humidity is it's got this little hygrometer attached to it right here. And if I'm not mistaken, this is actually replaceable, which is really handy. And as far as placement, you want to make sure that it's centrally located in whatever chamber it is you're trying to manage the humidity in. So in my case, it's down in this bottom left-hand corner, not too far away from the extraction vent. That way, it's not going to be tripping it on or off way too fast. All right, let's get into some of the controls and how we set this up. In order to get into the menu, you hold set for 3 seconds. And then it's got a couple of letters up here. So this first one is HS. That's your humidity set point. In my case, I have it 91%. You can actually adjust this all the way from 99% down to 5% humidity. So whatever your target is, you should be able to do something. To navigate to the next screen, you hit set humidification differential value. This tells the humidifier when to come on. So if you have it set to 3 like I do, and your target humidity set is 91 like mine, 91 minus 3 equals 88. So 88 is where the humidifier kicks on. Dehumidifier differential. This tells the dehumidifier when to come on. If you have humidity set to 91 like mine and dehumidification differential set to 4 like mine, then 91 plus 4 equals 95. So the dehumidifier will come on at 95% in this case. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Alarm high. So this goes all the way up to 99. Alarm low. This one goes up to 50 PT. This is delayed protection. And if you're using a dehumidifier with a compressor, you can add a 0 to 10 minute delay between operations. So basically that just keeps your compressor from burning out in between working sessions. And then CA, this is your calibration. And this can be a positive or a negative number. And this just helps you ensure that your humidification readout is actually what it is supposed to be. Mine was actually pretty darn close. I put another hygrometer in my fruiting tent and it was reading the same value as this. So I took that as confirmation that it was correct and just went from there. Something to keep in mind is if you hold set and you're at the screen to where you can adjust the values, if you don't push anything, it reverts back to whatever it was before you started adjusting things for that whole operation. My recommendation would be to sort of write down which values you want before you get started, just so you know what you're going to be doing. And if you're going to take a break, hold set again for 3 seconds and it saves what you're planning on inputting. This thing's working really awesome for me. I would definitely recommend it if you're trying to control a fruiting chamber, a drying room, or something like that. It's really a handy little piece of equipment. Now we'll talk about this repeat cycle timer. Got a little 125 volt plug and it's designed to turn on and off at these specific intervals. So basically the way that works is if every 15 minutes you wanted a pump to come on for 3 minutes, you'd set it like that. And then let's just say that wasn't quite right, so maybe you turn that down to 10 minutes and turn that up to 5 minutes. Looks like that. Really easy to operate. You can use it for either daytime use, nighttime use, or 24-hour use. So I have mine set to 24-hour because I need to keep the fresh air exchange dialed all the time. But let's get into the controls. It's really easy to operate. Got a little output light on, so it tells you whether or not this plug is activated. And then it's got a little light sensor. So that's how it knows whether or not it's daytime or nighttime. In order to change to 24-hour control, you're going to start by setting both of the values to minimum. And then, within 5 seconds after plugging it in, you just set both of the values to max. Plug it in. And that's 24-hour mode. Super handy little repeat cycle timer. I was easily able to dial in the fresh air exchange for my mushrooms, and I would definitely recommend this. This repeat cycle timer is attached to a 4-inch duct fan, which, you probably shouldn't buy just because it used to be a carbon filter duct fan in one combo, and then I cut it up with like an angle grinder and taped on some ducts to it, so it's super DIY. You can see here where this is connected down here, goes up and out the window, and it's attached to a nice little dial, so you can change the fan speed right there, but I keep it at the lowest setting because it's doing its job. That also has the added benefit of sucking out the spores and pumping them outside rather than letting them be loose ambient in the living space. You can actually encounter a lot of health problems if you're breathing in a lot of spores. Also, I've heard some terrible stories about people's mushrooms eating the wood out of their houses. Okay, well, I hope you found this helpful. I think if I was doing this again in the future, it probably would be easier to get a little AC Infinity 2x2 tent or whatever size tent that you you think that you'll need. Hook that up with a fan from them, maybe the humidity controller from them. I haven't used it personally. This Inkbird is working great. I know that AC Infinity has a lot of really great options. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like the video, and if you'd like to see more content like this, then please subscribe. I love to make videos about mushrooms, gardening, and all sorts of stuff. Thanks for watching. Happy growing.